Hello everyone and welcome to this new video where we start off looking at this beautiful concept art I made of the paint scheme I am applying to this master-grade Z'gok in this video. If you look carefully you might notice that it looks an awful lot like a RX-78-2, but it's a Z'gok. And I am painting that RX-72 color scheme we all know and love on this master-grade Z'gok kit, so let's get right into it. We start off by clipping all the separate parts on alligator clips on a skewer. That way we can hold it easily and put it in this foam to have it stay upright and secure. Now this video is going to be a bit different, and if you noticed, this might be a bit few parts for a master grade of this size. And that's correct, because this kit is a special kit. With most gunpla kits I'm building nowadays, they're kind of in between projects. And they're also usually only built at build days. At my local hobby store they have build weekends where a lot of gunpla builders just get together and build their kits together. And this is a kit that I primarily have only built on said build weekends. So they're stretched apart once a month, and then I work on this kit, and then whenever it is done I move on to the painting stage. And since I get kind of burned out by doing entire gunpla kit in one go, so I am dividing this kit in few parts, and they're basically separated by body parts. So this one is the chest and the backpack, and then another video will be the arms, and another one will be the legs, and another one will be the waist. This kit is divided in several parts, several videos as well, so this part we will be working on the chest and a backpack only. Now we've started with priming the inner frame in a Mr.color 1500 gray primer and went over it with a dark gray paint. I'll put a paint name in the description. And then here you can see that I have masked off all the lower layer inside parts of the inner frame. And then all the higher layer parts of the inner frame I'll be painting with AK Extreme Metal Aluminium, which it's my favorite metal paint line. It's an awesome paint and it just looks amazing. So I'll be using that to kind of separate the inner frame with the lower laying parts in that dark gray, and then the higher laying parts in that aluminium. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to mask off all the inner frame parts. Also kind of a reason why I separate these body parts, to give myself a bit of a cool down from all this tedious work that I'm doing. But it looks great in the end. You'll see the pictures eventually, and whilst we're working on it you'll see the progress as well. But yeah, I prime everything, put on a dark gray, mask off the entire inside or the lower portions or the lower laying portions of that inner frame that will stay dark gray, and then I go over with that aluminium to kind of separate those two parts from each other. And here we're done with the painting of the aluminium parts, so I proceed to take off the masking paint again. Not the best framing, it's also on a bit of an unstable arm, so the camera is shaking a little bit. I will fix that in later videos down the line eventually. But here we proceed to take off the masking tape. For the masking tape, it's the Tamiya masking tape, and it's the 6mm wide masking tape and the 18mm wide masking tape within the refillable holders. And then I just cut these into pieces, put them inside, also lay them on, and then with a toothpick kind of scribe along the edge to get that indentation that I use as a guide to cut the masking tape. And it's very important to have a good set of tweezers, both for applying but also for removing the masking tape. And it's especially important when cutting the masking tape, and especially when you cut on the part that you have a very sharp and preferably fresh hobby blade, so that when you very lightly cut the masking tape it just goes straight through without cutting into the plastic underneath, so you don't damage the part beneath the masking tape, but still cut the masking tape out very nice and cleanly. But also, when removing it with a knife, when it's very sharp, you have the fine point, you can just get underneath it like I'm doing here, and then peel it off with the tweezers. Now you saw how that one part turned out, and I think it just turned out great. And here we're removing the masking tape from the back inner frame torso panel. Here I am using I think it's an Ammomic Atom Blood Red acrylic paint with a brush to paint the pipes on the back of this back part red. A lot of the inner frame will be detail painted and then covered up to never be seen again, besides from the photos I take of it. And a lot of the piping will be highlighted, screw holes, even more indentations in the darker parts will be highlighted, some gold and copper and bronze here and there. But yeah, we start with applying the red paint on these pipes. And here, as you can see, is the end result of that. I think it looks amazing. I then took it upon myself to paint this 1 to 100 scale minifigure of Char Aznavour. I haven't done this quite often. I've actually never painted a lot of pilot figures besides a few military models, but those are often 1/48 or 1/35 scale, so they're a bit easier to do. But I took the challenge upon myself to paint this 1 to 100 scale Char Aznavour. I've been brush painting a bit more often recently, so I've been getting better at it, and I think that given my experience and skill within brush painting, I think it turned out pretty quite nicely. As you can see here, it's the yellow emblem on the chest isn't the best, but painting yellow on black is difficult, but besides from that, I think it turned out quite spectacularly. And here is the almost fully assembled chest piece. I've got the head part, but we'll see that in these pictures. Now I also painted some bronze on these like bolt kind of parts on the inside of the torso. Here you can see the inside of the shoulder piece is very nicely accentuated by the metal, and here of course the backside with also the black paint on even lower parts of the inner frame. Then of course the back parts with the red tubing, the black tubing and the white connected parts, with also some copper pieces here and there. I think it looks amazing and I really do love it. We then move on to the outer frame section. Here I am going to do something that you should have seen before on my channel. In a few military models I use this technique called black basing, where you apply a black primer, then highlight the inside of panels with a lighter paint, usually white or a lighter variant, or actually the paint that goes on top of it. I prefer to use white. That you fill the inside of the panels with, so once you go over to the final color, the color will be more dark around the edges of a panel and more bright on the inside of a panel. On military models, it gives the idea of stressed metal, a worn plane that has been used, has been flown. I did that here as well on gunpla kits. I like to go for used gunpla kits or used Gundams with weathering, worn metal as well, or just go a perfect factory finish. I just like the look of a used mobile suit, just a tad more. Once that primer has dried, we will start the modeling process. Now, I do have to say that in the future, when I will be working on the other remaining limbs of this kit, I will not be modeling it. I will be going for a solid pre-shading on the inside of the panel. So the part that I am now modeling will be more solid. There won't be all dots and twirls and all those kinds of things. I prefer the look of a solid black basing with a white pre-shade instead of the modeling part. So I'll be doing that in future parts. I'll tell you again when I do it. But I've seen work of other people, and I just think that when you go for that solid kind of pre-shading effect, it just looks a bit better on gunpla. Especially given the scale, since this is 1/100, the modeling, like those kind of textures you won't be seeing in this scale anymore. So I just prefer to go with a solid kind of pre-shading in the future. Now, once that's done, I will be going over it with the paint. The main torso paint is a cobalt blue or a bright blue. I'll be putting it on the screen from mrHobby. I'll be using both paints in the accent colors. Some part on the torso have a bit of a darker blue, some parts on the backpack. The doors on the pots are also a darker blue. That is the cobalt blue from mrHobby. And the other part is the bright blue from mrHobby. So here on the photos after this, especially on the backpack, you'll very clearly see the black basing pre-shade effect come through in this paint. Like I said before, when the paint is still glossy, once the gloss coat is over it, it will subdue a little bit, but once the flat coat comes back over it, it will pop really well. So here I'm applying the blue paint, and then I'll move on to applying the paint to the other parts. Now I have, for some reason, as I seem to be doing for a lot of videos, forget to film a lot of the stuff I've painted. I forgot basically everything that isn't blue. I forgot to film that. So here you'll see me painting most of the blue paints on the back side and on the front side of the panels and on the backpack pieces. But after that, the end result will be there because I forgot to film the assembly. I forgot to film the other colors. I'll try to take more care of that in the future. I'm just like, I'm gonna paint this now, and then I'm like, I forgot to turn on the camera, and I honestly am too lazy to turn it on anyway. So here I'm putting on the last few bits of blue paint on this part. This is on the backpack on the top, and here you'll see the yellow and the red I've also applied. And if you look carefully in the middle of the chest part, that middle piece where it comes together is a bit more dark blue. You can ever so slightly see it on these pictures as well, but this is the end result. I hope you like it. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy these photos.